My parents refused to help with my surgeries, saying they had no money. But when I found out they invested $120K in my husband's cheating ex's business, I cut contact and now they're stalking my house. I'm 34 years old. I'm an elementary school teacher, and I need to tell this story because I've been trying to process what my own parents did to me for months now. And honestly, there are still days when I wake up thinking that maybe it was just a horrible nightmare and nothing more. But no, it all happened, and the betrayal was so fucking deep that sometimes I feel like I didn't even really know them. I guess I should start from the beginning? Or at least from the moment when everything started falling apart? Which was like 2 years ago when I got diagnosed with this chronic illness that basically changed my life completely. Before that, my life was pretty normal. You know, I went to work every day. I loved teaching kids. I'd come home to Marcus, my husband. We'd watch shows, cook together. On weekends, we'd visit my family. Marcus and I had been married for like 4 years at that point. We met after he divorced his ex-wife Rachel, who basically cheated on him like 3 or 4 times during their marriage. A super toxic situation that he finally managed to get out of. My parents met Rachel when Marcus and I started dating, like at some family gathering where she showed up to pick up some stuff from Marcus or something. I don't remember exactly, but I know my mom became obsessed with her from day one. She'd say things like, "Oh, what a sweet girl, such a shame what happened." And I thought, well, that's nice of you, but she literally destroyed Marcus emotionally. You know what I mean? So anyway, when I got diagnosed, the doctors told me I was going to need several surgeries, treatments, super expensive medications, and that I'd probably have to take unpaid leave from my job because the recovery was going to be long. I was terrified, obviously, not just because of the illness itself, but because of the financial aspect. Because even though Marcus has a good job as a construction project manager, our insurance didn't cover everything, and we knew the medical debt was going to be brutal. I did the math, and we were talking about tens of thousands of dollars between surgeries, medications, therapies, all of that, plus the fact that I wasn't going to be able to work for several months, which meant losing my entire salary. So, and this seemed like the most logical thing in the world at the time, I talked to my parents. My parents? Let me be clear, are wealthy people? I mean, not millionaires like yachts and private planes, but they have several successful businesses, a huge house. They're always traveling, buying expensive things. You know, the type. I grew up with a very comfortable life. I never lacked anything. And although when I left home, I obviously started supporting myself, I always had that feeling that if something really serious happened, my parents would be there to help. How naive I was, right? When I explained the situation to them, how serious it was, how much the treatments were going to cost, I expected them to say something like, "Don't worry, honey, we'll help you. Or at least we'll lend you the money and you can pay us back when you can." But instead, my dad got all serious and told me that things were difficult with the businesses, that they had a lot of expenses, that they couldn't commit to something so big. My mom nodded and added that they could give me like $500 to help, but that more than that simply wasn't possible at that moment. $500. When the medical bills were going to be over $50,000 just in the first year. I sat there in their living room, the same living room where I grew up playing as a child, looking at these two people who were supposed to love me more than anything in the world, and I simply couldn't process what they were saying. I asked them if they were sure, if there wasn't some way they could help me even with a part of it, and my dad got a little annoyed and said he didn't like me pressuring him, that they had already made a decision and I should respect it. So I left there with my $500 and feeling like shit. Honestly, not just because I desperately needed the money, but because I felt like my own parents were turning their backs on me when I needed them most. What came next were horrible months. And when I say horrible, I'm not exaggerating even a little. I went through the first surgery, which was brutal. The recovery was painful physically and emotionally, and while I was trying to heal, I was also obsessed with the bills that kept coming. Marcus did everything he could. Worked overtime. I did too when I could. I got an online tutoring job that I could do from home when I felt well enough. Like 2 or 3 hours a day when I wasn't totally destroyed by pain or medications. I was basically working 2 jobs while recovering from major surgery, and my parents knew all of this. I told them when we talked on the phone, and they just said things like, "Oh, how strong you are. We're proud of you." But never did they offer additional help. The truth started coming to light like 6 months ago, at a family dinner at my younger sister's house. We were all there, like something casual, my parents, my sister and her husband, Marcus, and me. And at some point in the conversation, my sister mentioned something about a new yoga studio that had opened in her area. My mom immediately got excited and said, "Oh yes, Rachel's, right? It's beautiful. We went to the opening last month." And I was like, "Wait, Rachel? Our Rachel? I mean, Marcus's ex." And my mom realized she had put her foot in it and tried to change the subject quickly, but it was too late. Marcus and I looked at each other with a, "What the hell is going on here?" face. I asked my mom directly what she had to do with Rachel's studio, and there was this super uncomfortable silence at the table. My sister, bless her, has always been more direct than me, and she blurted out, "Mom and Dad are angel investors in the studio. They put in like half the initial money or something like that, right?" And my parents went pale. Like my dad literally told my sister not to talk about things she didn't understand. But my sister kept going because she was also realizing how weird the situation was. And she said, "Well, you guys told us months ago that you were excited to invest in Rachel's project, that it was a great business opportunity." I can't even describe what I felt in that moment. It was like my whole body was burning and freezing at the same time. I looked at my parents and asked them, trying to keep my voice calm even though inside I was screaming, how much exactly they had invested in Rachel's studio. My dad tried to say that was private business, that he didn't have to account for his business decisions, but I insisted. I told them they had to tell me after they denied me help for my medical treatments, claiming they didn't have money. Finally, my mom admitted they had invested around $120,000 and then quickly added, "But it's different. It's an investment that will generate returns for us. It's not just giving away money." Giving away money. That's how my own mother described the possibility of helping her sick daughter, like it would be throwing money in the trash. Marcus had to grab my arm because I was already getting up from the table. I felt like I was going to explode. I told them I couldn't believe what I was hearing, that while I was working 2 jobs recovering from surgeries, getting into debt up to my neck, they were investing 6 figures in the business of the woman who destroyed my husband. And you know what my dad said? He said that Rachel had changed, that she was a serious businesswoman now, that yoga was a growing industry, all this shit about ROI and market opportunities. But the worst, the absolutely worst, was when my mom said that my medical bills weren't a good investment because the money would simply disappear into treatments and doctors. While with Rachel's studio at least they would see some return. She literally suggested that maybe I should try yoga instead of depending so much on Western medicine, that Rachel had been teaching her about holistic approaches and could help me. I just stood there looking at her like, "Who are you?" Because I swear I didn't recognize the woman who raised me, who's supposed to be my mother. I kicked them out of my house. Well, technically it was my sister's house, but I told them to leave, that I didn't want to see them again. My dad had the nerve to tell me I was being melodramatic, that when I got over my anger we'd talk like adults, and I yelled at him that I had nothing more to talk about with them, that they had chosen my husband's damn ex-wife over their own sick daughter. That was the last time I spoke to them directly, 6 months ago. But the story doesn't end there. I wish it ended there. Like a week after that disaster, Rachel, who supposedly didn't know anything about all this according to my parents, sent me a message full of fakeness saying she had heard we were estranged and that she felt terrible about being the cause of family problems, that if I needed to talk or wanted free yoga classes, her studio was open to me. I blocked her immediately because the hypocrisy disgusted me. Like this woman knew perfectly well what was happening. My parents probably told her everything. My aunt, my mom's sister, was the one who really opened my eyes to the magnitude of the situation. She called me like 2 weeks after the fight and told me we needed to talk. We met for coffee, and she told me things I had no idea were happening. Turns out my parents didn't just invest in Rachel's studio, but they had been spending time with her regularly for years. Like they'd invite her to dinners, celebrate holidays with her when Marcus and I couldn't go. They even went on beach vacations together last year. My aunt showed me photos on Facebook. My parents with Rachel at fancy restaurants, on trips, at the studio, opening, all with comments from my parents like, "So proud of our Rachel," or "What a joy to share this with someone so special." It was like discovering your parents had another secret family, but worse because the other daughter was literally the person who deeply hurt your husband. My aunt told me she had tried to talk to my mom several times about how inappropriate the situation was, especially when I was sick. But my mom always defended the relationship, saying Rachel was like the daughter she always wanted, someone who shared her interests in wellness and spirituality, that I had always been closer to my dad anyway. When I heard that, I literally started crying there in Starbucks. Because how do you process that your mom basically replaced you with your husband's ex? Things got weirder and creepier. Like a month after cutting contact, my parents and Rachel showed up at my work, at the school where I teach. I was in the middle of class when the secretary called me over the intercom, saying I had visitors at the entrance. I thought it was Marcus or something urgent, but when I came out, it was the three of them, standing there like nothing. My parents telling me we needed to talk as a family, and Rachel smiling with that fake smile she always uses. The school principal was there, confused, and I had to explain in front of everyone that those people weren't welcome, that please call security if they didn't leave. It was humiliating and terrifying at the same time. I couldn't believe they'd go to that level. I changed all the security codes to my house because it turns out Rachel. And I discovered this from the security cameras. Tried to enter my house using a code that clearly my parents gave her. The cameras caught her at my door, trying different combinations until she gave up. When I showed Marcus the video, he almost lost his mind. He called his lawyer to see what we could do legally. And I felt violated in my own home. Paranoid all the time, thinking they could show up any moment. My sister, who had also cut contact with my parents after that dinner, started investigating more because she had access to some old bank documents from when she helped my parents with taxes years ago. What she discovered was even worse than we thought. Over the last 3 years, my parents didn't just invest the initial $120,000 in Rachel's studio, but they continued giving her money regularly for expansion, new equipment, marketing, basically financing her entire business life. In total, according to what my sister could calculate, my parents had spent close to $500,000 on Rachel and her projects, including helping her with mortgage payments on her house. $500,000 for a woman who had no real relationship with them except having been married to my husband, while their own sick daughter was working 2 jobs to pay for surgeries. They started spreading rumors in their social circle, which is pretty large because my parents are active in the community, saying I was mentally unstable, that my illness had changed me, that I was making things up, and that Rachel had been so kind to try to help the family, but I had attacked her unfairly. Several acquaintances contacted me asking if I was okay, if it was true that I had verbally assaulted Rachel in public, pure lies fabricated to make me look like the villain of the story. The straw that broke the camel's back was when they showed up at my house, literally parked outside for hours. It was a Saturday afternoon. Marcus and I noticed their car there, just sitting looking toward the house. We called the police, who came and asked them to leave, documented the incident, and the officer recommended we consider a restraining order if the behavior continued. That night, I consulted with a lawyer about the process, something I never thought I'd have to do against my own parents. The lawyer explained, I had a decent case for a temporary restraining order given the pattern of harassment, the attempted unauthorized entry, the appearance at my work, all documented with videos and police reports. I changed all the locks on the house too, not just the codes, because at this point I didn't trust anything. Marcus installed more cameras, additional alarm systems. We basically turned our house into a fortress, which is depressing when you think it's against your own family. My sister and her husband made the decision to cut complete contact with our parents too. She told me she couldn't, in good conscience, maintain a relationship with people capable of doing what they did to us, especially after seeing all the financial evidence. My parents tried the same game with her, calling her ungrateful, saying we had manipulated her, but my sister is strong and told them clearly that their actions spoke for themselves, that they had chosen a stranger over their own daughters and now they had to live with those consequences. The most recent thing, and this was like 3 weeks ago, is that my parents started telling people that Marcus is manipulating me financially, that he's taking advantage of me, that all of this is his fault because he never got over his divorce from Rachel and is using me to get revenge. It's so absurd, it's almost funny. Like Marcus is the only person who's been there for me from the beginning, the one who worked overtime without complaining, the one who took care of me after every surgery, the one who never made me feel like a burden despite everything. But I guess they need to invent some narrative where they're not the villains of the story. I had to quit my tutoring job recently because my doctor told me I was risking my recovery by working too much, that I needed to really rest if I wanted to get better. It was hard to make that decision because we needed the extra money, but Marcus received a promotion at his job, thank God, which came with better health insurance and a significant raise, so we could handle it. I'm done with most of my big treatments now. I still have to go to regular checkups and take medications, but I'm much better physically than 2 years ago. Although emotionally, I'm still processing all this shit. Marcus and I decided to move next month to another neighborhood. Start over somewhere my parents don't know where we live, where we don't have to be constantly looking out the window expecting to see their car. It's sad it has to come to this. But we need peace of mind. We need to feel safe in our own home. We also started therapy, both individual and couples, because something like this leaves you with deep scars that don't disappear just because you cut contact. I have to work on the feeling of abandonment, on the betrayal, on the fact that the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally chose someone else. There are still moments, especially at night when I can't sleep, when I wonder if I should have seen it coming, if there were signs I ignored. Looking back, I guess there was always something weird about how my mom talked about Rachel. But never in a million years would I have imagined they'd get to this, that they'd basically replace me with her while I was literally fighting for my health and my financial life. Sometimes I feel guilty, like maybe I overreacted. But then I remember the medical bills, the pain, the nights crying, wondering how we were going to pay for everything, while they were cutting six-figure checks for Rachel, and the guilt disappears. My sister tells me I'm eventually going to heal completely from this. That time helps. And I want to believe her. What I do know is that I don't have parents anymore, not in the real sense of the word, and that hurts in a way I can't even explain. It's like mourning, but worse because they're alive. They simply chose not to be part of my life in the way that mattered. Marcus has been incredible. His family, too. They've supported me more than my own blood, which says a lot. The last time I knew anything about Rachel was like 2 weeks ago when my sister saw she had posted on Instagram photos with my parents on another trip, all smiling, with a caption about gratitude and chosen family. I didn't look for her. I didn't look at the photos directly, but my sister told me because she wanted me to know they're still together in this, that it wasn't something temporary. And you know what? I'm not even surprised anymore. Let them have their weird and twisted family. I'm building mine with the people who really showed me they're there when things got tough. Yesterday, Marcus and I went to see the new house. It's smaller than where we live now, but it has a nice yard, and it's in a quiet neighborhood where nobody knows us, where I can just be Caroline the teacher, not Caroline, the rejected daughter with the dramatic family story. We packed the first box this morning, and I felt something like hope for the first time in months. Like, maybe we really can leave all this behind and start over. It's not going to be easy. I know I'm going to carry this with me for a long time, probably forever, to some extent, but at least I'm going to carry it on my own terms, surrounded by people who value me. If anyone asks me about my parents now, I simply say, I don't have contact with them. And when they ask why, which is inevitable, I just say they made decisions that made it very clear where their priorities are, and those priorities didn't include their sick daughter. Most people don't know what to say after that, and that's okay. I don't know what to say half the time either. What I am clear about is that I'm never going to understand how parents can do this, how they can watch their daughter suffer and choose to invest in someone else's life, especially someone with Rachel's history. But I guess I don't need to understand it. I just need to move forward with my life and let them live with their decisions. Because at the end of the day, they're going to have to ask themselves if it was worth it, if Rachel and her yoga studios were worth losing both their daughters. And honestly, I hope the answer haunts them, although they'll probably never admit it.